Amazon Lex, our interface with the user. So the user is going to send a message. That message is then going to get processed by a Lambda function. In a moment, we can actually look at the prompts that we're using to generate responses. We also manage conversation history using DynamoDB. And here we have kind of a conversational. So imagine you have an FAQ. We can actually connect this with the Connect bot as well, which will allow us to enable the voice channel. And then we'll be able to see how we can just give it a call and have it respond.
I would just like to see the demo part.
Yep. I know we are all excited. So 800-213-9526. Let's see.
I'm curious, Circuit Bot. Please let me know how I can help.
What is Curious Circuit?
Based on the context provided, Curious Circuit is a weekly gathering of tech enthusiasts who come together to discuss, explore, and present their latest discoveries and insights in the field of generative AI.
So that was fantastic. And the goal we had was like to build a bot in 1 hour. And you were able to do that. So thank you so much, Kenton. Okay, so 6 o'clock, we'll start sharp at 6 o'clock, and that is the promise, and we'll stick to that. Akash, thank you for joining. Let other people join. In the meantime, we'll get started. So I'll quickly share my screen. We'll do a quick round of intro, and then we'll directly hand it over to you, Kenton. So here we are. Today is our 15th episode of Generative AI in Enterprise. I started this meetup group back in December. Jeremy, you were there in the first meetup, right? When we had. So it was more of like curiosity to explore and see like what other people are also doing in the generative AI space. And that's the motivation and interest to kind of like get started with the meetup group. And that has been going on forever. So now we have a big lineup. And today we have voice bot. So myself and Kenton, we actually work together in one of our projects. And that's how we met 6 months back. And it was a fantastic time spending with you, Kenton. And we continued our relationship, and now we are at this meetup group. And maybe in the future, we want to do more of this. So without spending a lot of time, I'll just quickly go through the agenda and some disclaimers here and there, and then hand it over to Kenton. So our agenda typically is we'll do an introduction, disclaimer, some housekeeping, participant introduction, and then we'll jump right into the topic of today. And then after that, we'll have some open floor discussion as well. Disclaimer. Want to keep it short. So all this, the meetup as well as any views and positions, these are on my own and nothing to do with my employer. We are recording this session. So if you have, and this session will be also shared in social media like YouTube. So if you are concerned about appearing in recordings or have confidential information IP to protect, please, think about it and feel free not to share. So that is the first quick thing. Housekeeping, microphone. We ask all the participants to be on mute. We have had sessions of Zoom bombings and etc. So I'm being a little bit cautious. Camera is optional, but again, if you feel free to like be on camera, we would like to see you. You can use the raise hand feature, chat function, etc., etc. We are trying to wrap up by 40 minutes, and then we can have a conversation going on. After that, audience intros. So I was going through the audience section, and this is a quick summary of like different types of audience that we have. So we have a lot of people who are just interested, like kind of like exploring this generative AI space because there has been so much talk in the town about generative AI. We have software engineers who are learning generative AI. We have people who have used OpenAI to build chatbot based on OpenAI's APIs. But with whisper voice model, it did not work for him. So that's something interesting area. Maybe Kenton, you can connect. We have people from cybersecurity, we have people from network admin, we have people from product designer, NLP data scientist, Scrum Master, AI startup founder, looking for best practices, program manager, Gen AI product manager, want to learn about LLM ops. So, Kenton, you have a wide range of audience over here. Maybe a lot of people have signed up, but they might not be able to join. But so that is the reason we'll record this session and share it in YouTube so that people can come back and look at it. So that is our intro about audience. Now our intro is about our friend Kenton Blacutt. So Kenton is a full stack data scientist working specifically in generative AI practice in Amazon Web Services. helping clients achieve tangible benefits, outcomes with GenAI solutions. You have studied data science in Shanghai, China. Oh, that's interesting. As well as in New York City, USA, before working for AWS. And you have a diverse background, having lived in 4 different continents, and is currently based out of North Carolina, USA. So here we have our friend Ken. So I'll shut up at this point of time, and the floor is all yours. Take it forward from here, Kenton. So over to you.
Thank you, Ujjal, for the intro. Before I start sharing, I'll just add as well my housekeeping disclaimer that any views that I share are my own and not those of my employer.
Correct.
And everything Ujjal said about his own employer, I reiterate.
Yeah, we are just a group of excited people who want to brainstorm ideas. That's all, right?
Yes. So today I'm going to be talking about voice bots. I'll skip over the general agenda. I'll just dive straight into the presentation. But basically, recently, with all the recent developments in generative AI, I guess we're seeing a lot of excitement. And sometimes you have kind of this solution. People want to put AI into everything. But usually, I think what we're trying to do day to day to help businesses is actually focus on achieving business outcomes with this technology. So trying to solve problems with generative AI rather than just throwing it at stuff because it's cool. Although that's also fun. So I'll start off giving kind of a general overview of recent developments in generative AI. By the way, on the right-hand side, you'll see I have images throughout the presentation, and all these images are generated with DALL-E. So a generative AI enthusiast. Basically, I'm gonna start talking about multimodal models. So this is maybe one of the newest things that has come out. But basically, what it means when a model is multimodal, usually we've had these large language models which are trained almost exclusively on text. But what these different AI companies have been finding is, hey, we can train a model not only on text but on audio, video, images. So all these different modalities. So that's where the term multimodal comes from. And what this allows us to do is then create these AIs that are capable of processing images as well, voice, like a whisper, and also generating audio, which is a pretty cool thing. Some of the key advances recently have been advanced reasoning. So the newest models like GPT-4, Claude 3, Gemini, all of these, they have, if you look at the benchmarks, they have basically the same intelligence, in quotes, as, or like 86% of an undergraduate level. So they're getting pretty close. And this allows you to actually automate a lot of the menial tasks that people do in day to day. So that's one thing kind of that's been moving forward really fast. I think we remember the first version of ChatGPT, and it just keeps getting better and better. Another key point is audio generation. So I don't know if anyone has been kind of seeing the new songs that come out that partly use generative AI, or the different voices that you can now create with the different startups and whatnot. But that's another big field that's moving really quickly. And lastly, video generation. So this is maybe if you have seen Sora, the new video model by OpenAI, but it's extremely high quality. It seems almost indistinguishable from reality. So all of these things, they're moving really quickly, and they're poised to kind of revolutionize many different industries. So the impact here, I just had a few that come to mind, but one is diagnostics. You can use these models to help summarize maybe everything about a patient and come out with the best kind of the most complete and best advice of how to help or diagnose something. Automotive, you guys know, Tesla, all these companies, they keep moving with more and more automation, self-driving cars, and different things. Generative AI can help there by to generate more like virtual test beds in order to run to improve these automations. And lastly, entertainment is another very big field where generative AI will obviously, with Sora and like the new audio models, will have big impacts in all these fields. And as Ujjal knows, not only that, but basically every industry has somehow will be impacted by generative AI, and it will hopefully be good. Anyway, so here I'll talk a bit about the business opportunities that we focus on, business outcomes, mainly what any kind of industry is trying to accomplish, or any business, is to lower costs. That's always a benefit. So this you can do with generative AI by automating the routine tasks, and this can reduce labor costs and also operational expenses. Then you can increase productivity. So AI tools can handle large volumes of data quickly, and this kind of allows the humans to focus on more high value strategic work rather than the typical drudgery many people have to go through. And lastly, this can help give a much better customer experience. So AI provides personalized interactions and support, is available 24/7, and it's usually enhancing the satisfaction of a customer. So these are three key things that pretty much any business wants to achieve. So now I'm actually, I don't want to talk too much about all this theoretical or just present slides. I actually want to dive into how we can actually build this pretty quickly using Amazon services. So we're going to try and build here in real time an AI powered voice bot by combining Amazon Connect, Amazon Lex, Lambda, and Bedrock. Connect basically is a cloud-based contact center service. So if you're familiar with Genesis, or maybe not, but if you call into a big company and you say, hey, I need whatever, it's going to a call center. So Amazon Connect is just Amazon's version of that service. Then we're going to use Amazon Lex as well. If you guys are probably familiar with Alexa, uses Amazon Alexa. And basically, this is a bundle of services from Amazon Web Services to build conversational interfaces that use voice and text. Then we'll be using AWS Lambda. Lambda just lets you run functions in the cloud, manage logic, Lambda logic, and different things that you need in order to sync the different services. And then we're going to use Bedrock. Bedrock basically allows you to, it's like an interface between different foundational models. So say I want to use Claude, I go through Amazon Bedrock. If I want to use Amazon's models, I can use Amazon Titan. But it's basically a connector with these services so that we can take advantage of generative AI through prompting, as we'll see. So now I'll move into the live demo. Let me stop sharing for a second. I don't know, Joe, if you have any questions or there's something you want to add in the...
No, not now. I mean, I'll have a lot of it at the end. So let me see. Saving it for the end.
Sounds good.
But, I mean, anyone has any question, like, feel free to put it in the chat as well, like, so that we can consolidate all the questions and ask Kenton at the end. Or feel free to just stop Kenton as well.
Okay, perfect. So we're gonna start off with this project, LangChain Agents. Basically, this is an open source repo where we have different AWS services that we can go ahead and clone. And if you want, you can follow along in real time. If not, you can just come back. The documentation is pretty clear.
Yeah.
So we're going to start off cloning this, and then I'll briefly go through the architecture of what we're going to be deploying, and then show it once we actually launch into AWS. So basically, as I mentioned before, these are the services we'll be using. Amazon Lex is basically kind of our interface with the user. So the user is going to send a message. That message is then going to get processed by a Lambda function. In a moment, we can actually look at the prompts that we're using to generate responses. We also manage conversation history using DynamoDB. And here we have kind of a conversational. So imagine you have an FAQ or you have some data with which you want to customize one of these models. So we're going to use knowledge bases for this. Basically, the Lambda will go get similar documents, and then we're going to combine whatever documentation that's in this knowledge base. We're going to combine it with the user's question, and we're going to pass that to the generative AI model, and we're going to generate these personalized responses for the user. And then I guess there's one part that's missing here. We'll see how long it's taking to deploy this stuff. But ideally, we can actually connect this with the Connect bot as well, which will allow us to enable the voice channel and then we'll be able to see how we can just give it a call and have it respond. And another part of the solution is Langsmith. Langsmith basically allows you to trace the different calls that you're making to the LLM and the prompts that you're using. And this helps to give some visibility. Say generative AI have some problems regarding hallucination. Hallucinations is basically when a model makes something up that could be for some reason from its training from before, or maybe the prompt that was sent to it, but it kind of invents some new facts. And in order to mitigate that, we try to monitor and figure out, okay, how much of all the responses are actually correct? What is that latency? Different things that are useful, especially if a company or someone is trying to take this into production. Usually you want to start off with a base, but then have something, some way to understand how people are using it, how much, and how you should improve it. So that's kind of what Langsmith helps us do. Langsmith, if you're familiar with LangChain, it's a service that they have. So here I'm going to follow these steps in my terminal, and we'll deploy this. And in the end, what we're going to see is we'll have this chat interface where we can ask. So here I have an example of Reinforce. Reinforce is a AWS Amazon conference, security conference. If you want, you should go to that. I've been there one time. It's fun and you learn a lot. And basically here we have an FAQ about who this is geared towards, maybe just some about information. But here we can see the AI kind of contextualizes it and gives us a pretty good answer and says, according to the provided context, Reinforce is intended for anyone interested in cloud security, compliance, identity, or privacy across all stages of cloud usage, et cetera, et cetera. And on the right-hand side, we can see how Langsmith is actually tracing each of these calls that are made to the LLM. And you can see that we have an option if we want, we can add feedback. So we could have someone manually coming in and reviewing the responses and giving, a thumbs up, thumbs down. Or we can have automated an AI, basically rate the AI using a prompt. So we can say, hey, evaluate this response. This is the desired response. This is what it responded. Is this correct or not? Or is this following company policies or whatever it may be? So this adds quite a lot of value. And then lastly, we have some parts here to destroy the stack. Before diving into the actually deploying everything, I'm just going to very briefly, I don't know, the technical, I see there's a variation, but maybe some people will just want to see maybe the prompt, what it looks like. So basically here we're defining which model we want to use. I released this a few months ago, so Claude 3 was not yet available, but this would be very easy to just upgrade to Claude 3, Haiku at least. Basically here with LangChain, we initialize the Bedrock chat. Then we have a session ID, which is coming in from Lex. This basically keeps track of, okay, this person started a new conversation. They have a follow-up question. Let me just keep answering these follow-ups. I know it's part of the same. Then we have a retriever. This is basically going to go and get the documents. What this is using it's called Amazon knowledge bases. Basically uses LLMs and generative AI to generate embeddings, and it puts those into here anyway. Then we can find semantically similar data, or we can just call it similar data, I guess. Semantics be confusing. Then here we just get the user message. This is also coming in through Lex, so it's input transcript. And
I have a question about knowledge base. So basically, what is the database behind it?
So you can pick. There's different options. In my case, I usually tend to use OpenSearch.
OpenSearch. Okay.
Yeah, because OpenSearch also has some extra features that can speed up the performance and other benefits.
Perfect. Okay. Sounds good.
And here you can also control the amount of results you're getting back. I set it to 3. But if I guess depending on costs and how long each of your examples is, your documents, you can refine this a bit.
So you also mentioned about multimodal in the very beginning. So in this demo, are you using multimodal or is it just text at this point of time?
In this case, it will be just text, but we'll use a text-to-speech model at the end and a speech-to-text model to translate into text.
But the knowledge base is purely text at this point of time.
I believe you could set up OpenSearch with multimodal embeddings if you wanted to. but
Got it. But in this demo, it's only text.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So here I'll just show the prompts very briefly. I copied this from LangChain, which is the open source repo. Basically, it says you are an assistant for question answering tasks. Use the following pieces of retrieved context to answer the question. If you don't know the answer, just say that you don't know. Use 3 sentences maximum and keep the answer concise. And here we pass the context. And then here we also have a contextualization prompt. So if someone asks a follow-up question, we want to make sure that whatever we're retrieving from the knowledge base isn't only based on the user's last question, but kind of takes into account the whole chat history. There's this helps contextualize. Of course, you can keep in mind, like the more prompts you have, the longer your chain, the more expensive it will get. So I guess you can make a trade-off between, you know, how much focus you want to pay to contextualization versus the last message and latency and all these different variables. But basically, this is just some LangChain code to go make this a chain. And here at the end, you can see once we have set up the chain, and LangChain has some pretty good documentation to set this up. But we're basically going to invoke and we'll pass the user message as the question and whatever the chat history is that we've been appending to. And then here's some parts just to translate between Lex and the document. But so this is probably the most interesting part of all the code. The rest is more related to infrastructure and setting up the models and whatnot. So now I'll share my terminal. We can actually run the commands to deploy this.
So while Kenton does that, anyone has any questions for Kenton? No questions. Okay, good.
So here, if anyone wants to, they can just actually go and run this. Everything's open source, so it should work in your environment without.
But you still need some keys, right? So let's talk about the keys while your deployment is going on.
Yeah. So let me, or maybe I'll hit deploy and then we can.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, because it's going to take time.
Yeah. Let's see. I can share.
So there is one question. We can get to that once you're ready, Kenton.
Yeah. So I see Swami has a question. I suppose you use OpenSearch as a vector DB. What did you use DynamoDB for? So OpenSearch is there for the FAQs and the documents. And basically, see if we can give a good visualization.
Maybe once you start the deployment, just making sure like you are on time.
Yeah. I see here it's downloading. All right. So here, basically, we can see this how a knowledge base would work, say with OpenSearch. Basically, we're turning every sentence or every document. I guess it can be up to, I forget the amount of tokens, but it can be a lot of tokens. Tokens is basically just length, but you can imagine, so you could have like 5 pages, or maybe less, so maybe a page or whatever, but you turn that into a vector. Vector is just a set of numbers. So here we're using embedding model. In this case, we use Amazon Titan. The embeddings, there's also multimodal embedding, as Ujjal had asked before. Amazon also has that we could use, but in this case, we'll just stick with the regular one. So basically what these knowledge bases or different vector stores are doing is that things that are similar to each other semantically will be similar, will be near each other in the vector space. So say here we have feline friends say, and then meow. So these are both related to cats and animals. So they go up to that same space. Same with the dogs, canine companions say woof, bovine buddies say moo. Then say this quarterback that throws a football is way off to another direction. And basically these embedding models, they have like 4,000 vectors. 4,000, length. And they keep 4,000 vectors. And we can see if you add 3, you suddenly have a more complex visualization. So you can imagine as you scale this up to many more dimensions, you're able to capture more and more meaning. So what the OpenSearch is doing is finding similar documents. With the chat history, we don't necessarily want that. With the chat history, we just want to pull the latest messages, so we don't have to do this complex, like figure out where this is in the embedding space, what's near each other. It makes it a lot easier. Like that, it makes more sense for chat history to just have the regular DynamoDB key value store. I don't know if that makes sense, Swami. A bit of a long explanation, but
I think that makes sense. So basically, based on what I understand, is like you're storing all the documents, embedding them, and storing it into the OpenSearch. But when the conversation is happening, you maintain the chat history in the DynamoDB, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Okay, makes sense. When do you refer back to the conversation history?
So that's like within the prompt.
Okay.
You say like, this is the chat history.
So why are you sending the chat history to the prompt?
Yeah, so we append it to the prompt.
But why are you adding it to the prompt? So that it kind of like gets more context around like what is going on in the history, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And some of the newer models, they take like a messages, multiple messages, so you can just add the messages directly. Like they don't have to be part of the whole prompt. Just
Okay, makes sense.
So here I'll finish deploying this. Let's go back to we use Node to install this stuff, and we're using CDK. I don't know if anyone here has moved CDK.
Do you also store the document somewhere to give a link to the source while we answer?
So you can do this. I guess it depends on our use case. Say if you're having a voice bot that someone's calling into, maybe they can say, hey, go check on our company website. But if they give like a full URL, that'll be confusing. But yes, OpenSearch does return the source documents. So you could just surface those back to the user somehow if you want to. I also see Christina had a question. Do we need to know JavaScript and or actively use GitHub? I think that helps if you do. But if not, I think the instructions are pretty straightforward for anyone to get started. You can always ask if you get stuck, some LLM for help. Let's see. All right, so now we'll synthesize this.
Can you explain what is the synthesize?
Yeah, what the synthesis does is it basically takes the infrastructure as code. So CDK is kind of more abstract. Say I want to create a Lambda, I just write Lambda and it just like a regular Python function, but that actually has to turn into a more concrete language formation. So when you synthesize, it turns this more abstract infrastructure as code into more specific, well-defined CloudFormation template.
So basically, you're taking a Python-like code, which is CDK, convert it into a CloudFormation template, then using that CloudFormation template to deploy it.
Exactly.
Whole infrastructure.
But CDK will just do all that for you, so it's kind of transparent from that point of view. Then here we have the environment variables that we need. So actually, if you do want to deploy this, you need a knowledge base so you'll have to have an AWS account. You also have to get a LangChain API key. The project ID can be anything. So I'll just call this voice bot.
Can I ask a question while you do this? When you mentioned about CDK, which converts the is that a Terraform template? Infrastructure as a code.
So I can show you actually the infrastructure as code real quick while you're ready. So this is CDK. Basically, you can see here I'm like defining the DynamoDB table.
Okay. Got it. So this is not a Terraform CDK. So
yeah,
converting CDK to the CloudFormation to deploy in the AWS. Understood.
Exactly.
Is that a new one? The CDK?
I mean it's like relatively new, maybe like 5 years.
Okay.
Before,
but it's more. I think one of the best practices is to use CDK rather than. It's just easy, like it just makes life easier.
Okay, I was thinking Terraform is the one where It's a
So Terraform is a separate
cloud
organization,
formation
right?
agnostic, and then you can use that in any cloud, right? So
Correct.
that's all.
Terraform is a
So this
separate
one also,
automation. HashiCorp.
right. Okay, CDK is
AWS specific.
yeah, okay.
Yeah. And it
But
follows.
you cannot take the CDK and use it for GCP deployment or Azure deployment.
I don't know. Kenton, can we do?
I mean, I guess technically anything's possible with code, but I think those service providers, they have like their own CDK equivalents. CDK is more built for AWS specifically.
AWS only. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So here I'm going to go in and we're actually going to go create a knowledge base. We can put some made up FAQs there just to demo the capabilities. So we're going to call this circuits. So here you can actually see it's pretty easy to create this. We actually have to go to S3 first and populate a S3 bucket. I'm going to create. An S3 bucket, if someone doesn't know, I guess here I'm so used to all this stuff that I think everyone knows it. S3 is just lets you store data, and it's very low cost. So then here, look for this. Go back to Bedrock. We're going to use Bedrock to create some FAQs that we'll then use to show how the WoW works. So we use Haiku. What industry should we make this for? Maybe for Curious Circuit, we just give it.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, why not? I mean, so Jeremy, this can be applied to vast amount of industries. Actually, every industry is trying to build a chatbot, right? Every place where we go, because there are so much of documentation which is not in internet. So internal documentation. So what organizations would like to do is they want to have a capability of searching and having a discussion on top of internal documents to gain productivity. So that is one way. The other way is like, now where does voice bot comes into picture? Maybe like customer facing, right? So customer facing, someone calls and then we have a voice bot where the customer can talk to the voice bot. And then the voice bot is not only giving some generic answer, but they're giving industry specific answers as well. So those are the two areas that I can see a lot of use case. So chat is the biggest use case in the industry right now, followed by voice. Does that answer, Jeremy?
Yeah, it does. And I understand all that. I was just hoping to see what I thought we were going to see was voice into some sort of text language manipulation with a question that goes off to an LLM and then comes back with a voice answer.
So let's see. That's what I believe, Kenton, you're trying to build, right?
This is the goal, yeah. I'm building it from scratch so we can.
Yeah, so Kenton is showing just not only the demo, but he's building it from scratch.
Yeah, I would just like to see the demo part.
Yep, I know, we are all excited. So we'll have to wait for a few more minutes.
Yes. I'll go fast. But here I was just generating an FAQ about Curious Circuits. You can see it here if you want, Vijay.
How are you generating the FAQs here?
Why am I generating? So that we can.
No. How are you generating? You have a pre-compiled, pre-created document that you're keeping it here?
Yeah, so I just asked Claude to generate one.
Yeah, so basically, Kenton is using an LLM and asking it a question. It gives an answer. So that becomes the document source. It's now becomes the FAQ. So it's like,
okay. So you are okay, I understand now. So you're like generating the documents,
set of documents
on the fly now.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, yeah, and then you're going to feed the document into your app. Okay.
Into the knowledge base.
That's it.
Yeah. So now we're going to upload this. And then we're going to create this knowledge base. Here you see we just pick bucket we created. Use Titan embeddings. So now this will go ahead and create. Meanwhile, we can go ahead and continue deploying the other stuff.
So while this is going on, so just to give a quick background, so at this point of time, you have created a set of frequently asked question by giving LLM a prompt. So you said, hey, LLM, can you create a bunch of frequently asked questions? So LLM created some fake frequently asked questions. Now you took that question, put it into the knowledge base, and then now you're building that knowledge base on top of it. So that's what is going on behind the scene. So in the later part of the section, the other side, you're building the infrastructure which will connect your voice with the chat bot, which connects to the knowledge base, right? So you're creating that whole pipeline behind the scene, and then eventually all of them will be connected at some point of time.
That's correct. Yeah, exactly.
And the reason you're creating the knowledge base is because you can create a voice bot which connects to an LLM. It will give some random answer, but you do not want that. You want it to give answers from this knowledge base or from the frequently asked questions that you created.
Yeah, exactly. So we can see that it's actually pulling these questions. And also, since the artifact is built to interact with the knowledge base, it's easier to deploy if we use it.
So can we call this as a RAG then? Whatever you're building the FAQs.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Okay.
which you've augmented generation. In the meanwhile, we can also,
because you are not using the LLMs, whatever the billions of parameters model. You are using the RAG and then feeding it to the LLM, or you are just your frequently asked questions is the one it is just looking at it and responding back.
Yeah, so it will just retrieve the similar documents and then give a response.
Okay, so your question is not when I say your question, when the user asks a question on the prompt after you run this application, right? So the question is not going out to the cloud LLM, but instead it's going to your RAG and then getting that response back.
No, it's actually combining. So it gets the response from the RAG.
Okay, it's doing it both. Okay. So how do you mention to do both?
I guess it's in the prompt. If we take a look at the actual thing here, we can see we're actually saying you're an assistant for question answering tasks. Here's the context, and then we pass the user question. Here.
Correct. You pass the user question, but if the user question is exactly matching with your FAQ, it doesn't have to go to LLM, right? And then it can give you the response from your RAG.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Correct. But my question is, if the question is vague, then only it goes to the cloud LLM, and then combines with your FAQ, basically.
So yeah, what you're describing, I guess it would be a good architecture to minimize costs, but in this case, we're going to the LLM every time. Even if it's the exact question with the exact answer, it will still go to the LLM.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. Like, where do you mention that go to LLM irrespective? Do you control it, or is it the code itself is controlling it?
I mean, you can control it if you want to. You could just check, is this actually the exact same question that's being answered? And then you could just return that verbatim. But then you have to write extra logic. I think it's easier to just have the LLM, because also the chances that the person asks the exact question are very low, in my opinion.
Okay. By default, this program is sending it to LLM. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you show me? Sorry, if you don't mind, can you show me that
maybe
code where you are passing the?
Yeah, maybe like.
Or I can wait.
Let him complete the demo part, and because we'll run out of time. But also, I have shared the GitHub link, so you can take a look at it. Sorry.
So here I'm going to go ahead and create this this flow. Basically, this is a connect flow that we can. So we're going to put basically a prompt here. This will just play whatever we put. It's usually pretty fast. So here's some text to speech. Pretty simple though. This one's just giving whatever we type. But later we're going to hook this up with the Lambda that we're deploying, and it will give us dynamic responses. But to start, we'll say, hi, I'm Curious Circuit Bots. What can I help you with? Then I think a lot of times as well, when you have this integration with the contact center, it can be useful if you want to also hand off to a human agent. Maybe you need to escalate. The bot can't always do everything, so it makes it easy to enable that. I'm gonna drag these little boxes. And then here you can see connect is basically just routing to different services. Here we can pick Lex. So as soon as we have that ready, we'll just pick this. And then we're going to put here. And you can also, of course, set the voice that you want. So meanwhile, let's check if this has finished. Okay, perfect. So now the knowledge base has been created. Now we're going to sync it. We're going to copy the ID to finish deploying as well. And here you can actually start testing immediately if you want with the knowledge base without even, so Bedrock and the knowledge base service actually has a built-in kind of chat here. So maybe this will also help answer some questions, but say here, I'll pick Claude 3 and I'll say, what is Curious Circuit? If you want, you can just get the raw responses from the knowledge base, or you can have it generate the response as well. So here we can see it's giving us already an answer. It says Curious Circuit is a weekly gathering of tech enthusiasts who come together to discuss, explore, and present their latest discoveries and insights in the field of generative AI. It is a community hub for learning, sharing, and collaborating on cutting-edge technologies. And we can see here the actual sources that it pulled. So we had this one that I had just added synthetically. How can I connect with the Curious Circuit? And then also this one, which is just, I guess, more complete, more data. And then if we wanted to, we can add some query configurations, maybe say for a certain country or certain users you want to surface different information. So you can set up configs to enable that. So now that this is set up, we can take a look at our deployments. So as I mentioned before, everything we deploy will just go to CloudFormation. So we can actually just go and take a look there. So we should see this one start to create in just a moment. Well, I already had deployed, but if you were to create it, redeploy it, it will say create in progress, but here update in progress. And then here we can see the different things that are being created. Basically, it's what I showed before that was defined. So now if we actually go and take a look at the Lex that's being created. So Suno AI is also a generative audio. It sounds even more realistic than a lot of the ones that are currently on the market. It's an open source software. You can just go and download. I think I should. Yeah.
We need to do the Suno AI demo at some point of time.
When it's yeah, we could. Although it's very powerful. It might,
I know.
But yeah. So then we can actually go in and we can start using this bot. Here we have the English locale set up. So we can just build it. Let me check. Let me show this other screen. So here it's finishing deploying all the resources. Oh, it's deleting something. There we go. So now this is all deployed into our cloud. So we can go take a look at it. So Lex is kind of our interface that can also help us if we want to control costs. And maybe we don't want everything to be, as so mentioned before, maybe we don't want to pass everything to the LLM. We want some things to just be, we already know what we want to answer exactly, so we don't have to go and ask it each time. So Lex can help us kind of do the best of both worlds, like the typical chatbot and now the newer conversational one. But here then I can say, in the meanwhile, to speed up and hook it up with a voice, let me set that up. This is going faster than I expected, Ujjal. I thought I would lose.
That's okay. That happens all the time.
Yeah. So we're gonna go to connect. And here on the left, we're gonna go to flows, pick our bot that we just created, and pick the alias. This basically allows us to allow our contact center to interact with the bot. So here we can see it's now available. Do test bot. So now this has been published. Now we can just set it up with a phone number. Just verify. In the meanwhile, let me take a look at the chat. Could you please talk about OpenSearch versus Pinecone? So I'm not too familiar with OpenSearch. I'm sorry, with Pinecone, so I can't really speak to that question. So Joe, how long have you guys had this? You said since December. So this is week 15.
This is our 15th episode. Yes, I mean, I started in December.
Nice.
We had different topics, trying to explore and see like what else is going on in the market, trying to catch up. It's a big thing to actually catch up also.
Yeah. It moves so fast that there's always newer things that need to be.
Every day there is something.
So I have a question, if we're waiting.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that even though you uploaded a document to the database, the FAQ, when you pose a question, it still goes to the full LLM as opposed to just the document. So does that mean the document you uploaded has been integrated into the corpus of that LLM?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll try to answer that because I've learned so many things from Kenton. So I'll try to answer this. So basically the funda is if you don't have any document, source, right? If you just ask the LLM some question, it will give you some answer. Now, before that, what we are doing is we are actually think the document or the database sits before the LLM, right? So first you hit the document database. You ask the same question. It will give you 2 or 3 answers, similar answers. So suppose you have 2,000 documents in the database. You ask the questions to the database. It will give you 3 answers. In one of the code, he has mentioned retrieve 3. He can say retrieve 5. So it will give you 5 answers back. Those answers are little closer to the actual desired answer. So now I will take those 5 questions, 5 answers, and now send it to the LLM and say that, hey, go ahead and summarize this as one answer. So that's where the LLM uses its own intelligence to combine those 5 answers from the document and give you one answer back, which is very close to what you expect. Now, Kenton, did I get a 10 out of 10 or 5 out of 10? Like, what do you think?
I think it was pretty good. Maybe also try to do a more intuitive explanation.
Okay.
I mean, it was also great.
No, I followed that.
Okay.
You can do the more intuitive answer if you like. So just my follow-up question then, does that mean that someone else coming and using the LLM, let's say it's Claude, they are not going to have any access to the documents I uploaded for my personal knowledge database?
No, yeah, that's correct. So
okay, but they would have access to like the 3 questions my knowledge database passed to Claude to summarize. So they might have access to an element of it.
So, but like Bedrock doesn't hold on to any of your data. It's basically like the only like you pass it in the prompt, if that makes sense. I like to think of LLMs kind of, I mean, you can think of them like as a human that has just like woken up for the first time, and it has the context and whatever you give it. So you can say, hey, look, read these books and then give me an answer based on, I'm trying to answer this question, please do some research and answer it for me. And that person will go do the research and then answer. And the whole context, like the memory that AI will have, the documents that you're passing to it, everything exists in your cloud. So it's not actually going to, it's not training the that's what they call like a foundational model. It's like the one that I guess like the basic just trained model that came out. But no, it doesn't retrain on your data and whatnot. At least when you use Bedrock and use these Amazon services, I guess if you use a product like maybe I don't want to speak too much to other companies, but I know some, they do like take your data to actually go and improve those models.
Yeah.
But in the case of Amazon, well, at least it's not the case.
So
Okay.
basically, you're creating this boundary. When you sign up for AWS, you're creating this boundary. And within that boundary, you have a LLM, you have a document database, you have a DynamoDB where we are creating the chat history, right? Everything is within your boundary. So you get a copy of the LLM, not like you're sharing the whole LLM with the whole world. You get a copy of the LLM, now you do. It's like you get your own personal computer, something.
Oh, okay. And once I'm done using my own personal copy of the LLM, it's not made available to anyone else. It's just, I guess, erased if I erase my account.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And also the LLM is not retaining any information. So think it as a calculator, or I mean, like think it as a function. So it's like a function in a very simplistic way, a function which takes in two values, gives you a value back. So if you pass, suppose a function is a calculator, right? So you pass 2 and 3, it will give you back 5. It's not retaining any information back. It's using the input data. It's using its own intelligence to give you an answer. That's it. It's not
And it's not retaining the input data that I passed to it.
No,
okay.
It is not. Yeah. But, some other platforms, for example, I'll say ChatGPT. If I use ChatGPT, if you have an option where you can say save history, right? The moment you say save history, you are actually checking a box. We are using your data to retrain my model. Now you have the option to say don't save history, or you have the option to say don't train your model with my data. At that point of time, you cannot save history because you're not giving it the permission. So it depends on like which model we are using, which organization we are using, etc., etc.
And you can
Thank you.
User license agreements that you can also take a look at. So these companies usually they publish like, hey, this is our boundaries where our data storage ends and yours can start, blah blah. But all of that is right here if you're ever too curious. There's like the EULAs within Amazon.
Right.
So that's
we are at time.
Can I ask a question and continuation to that?
Yeah. Just checking 1 second with Kenton. Are you good with the demo? Or are you
yeah, we're good to move forward. Maybe let's move forward and then we can keep going back to the questions.
sorry, Rao?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
I'll wait.
Yeah, I'll just make sure like we are at time. If Kenton can do the demo. We are all excited to see the demo.
Basically, we can see now it's answering questions. I say, hey, what is curious circuit? And it's giving me this pretty long answer. Maybe for like a call or a voice, this is not the most ideal format. Like we want the responses to be shorter, but that's something we can just start fine tuning with prompt engineering and whatnot. So here we just pick the flow that we just created, which would be curious circuit, and then we save it. So now let's see all this all this work. Let's see if it works. Yeah. So or you guys can also call this number if you want and test it.
I can try. So 800-213-9526, 9526. Let's see.
I'm curious, Circuit Boss. Please let me know how I can help.
What is curious circuit?
Maybe the response will be long or timeouts. Let's see.
Based on the context provided, Curious Circuit is a weekly gathering of tech enthusiasts who come together to discuss, explore, and present their latest discoveries and insights in the field of generative AI. It is a community and hub for people interested in learning about and advancing generative AI technologies. The group holds meetings with presentations, discussions, workshops, and other activities.
Can I ask it? Stop and ask it another question.
Yeah. I think you can interrupt it as well.
When does this group meet? Some random question.
I guess I don't know if that was an FAQ, so we'll see what it says.
That's okay. Let's see what.
Curious Circuit community meets weekly for in-person meetings. Some key details. Curious Circuit is a weekly gathering of tech enthusiasts who come together to discuss, explore, and present their latest discoveries.
So it's like going based on the knowledge base, right? So if the knowledge has that answer, it would have given that answer. Okay.
Exactly.
So that was fantastic. And the goal we had was like we could build a bot in 1 hour. And you were able to do that. So thank you so much, Kenton, for all your inputs over here. Thanks everyone. I know like Jeremy had to drop, but a lot of people were interested to see the demo. Like how does it feel? But then a lot of things goes behind the scene. Rao, you wanted you had one
sure,
question,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. Thank you so much for the demo, and really appreciate whatever you guys are doing it. One question on this is when you mentioned that the Bedrock has the LLM, right? And then that LLM is your own LLM in that context, right? Then if it is our own LLM in the context and it has a billions of parameters, then are we using the entire the billions of parameters data in that part of the LLM, which is going to cost us from the AWS perspective, right? Is it not using the common LLM which is built? Claude. Claude is the LLM, right? So is that not it is using? Maybe I'm conscious to that.
So to be honest, I'm not 100% sure of what the infrastructure looks like for the Bedrock LLMs. I do know that they have like the data privacy and all these different best practices and whatnot. But as for like the exact like what exact model and what weights and where are those weights that are being invoked when you ask a question, those kinds of details, I'm not 100% sure about.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll just quickly share my screen real quick. So if you have more questions, feel free to connect. So this is the QR code of connecting to Kenton as well as myself and on LinkedIn. And if you have any other interesting topic that you want to like discuss or bring it into a group, let me know so we can organize something. And next week we have something very interesting about diving a little bit deeper into the technology, like how the LLM works and all. So feel free to join and we'll learn together. So that is the goal of Curious Circuit. Thank you, Kenton, for your time. I really appreciate this one. Like really from my bottom of my heart. And maybe we'll
thank you.
more on this voice or any other topics. I know like you experiment a lot on different things. So something interesting we'll cook and then we'll show it to the group.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, Ujjal, and good to meet all of you.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.